November 9th, 2016. It all started that fateful day. For most, it started out like any regular day. Moms got their kids ready for school, dads were getting ready for another day of work or just a day of looking for work. The country was thankful that a long, drawn-out election was over, yet the country was unfortunately more divided than ever. Red states versus blue states, the 99% versus the 1%, wasn't just a campaign slogan, it was the violent truth. With Obama's third-term re-election in spite of massive voter fraud reported, America had chosen her course. For years, the secession movement had exploded in growth. November 10th, 2016. The U.S. Treasury had held a bond auction. For years, the Federal Reserve had been purchasing 60 to 70% of all government debt. However, that morning, something changed. Rumors began to swirl that no private parties had bid on the bonds. Within hours, the New York Times and Wall Street Journal released a story from an unnamed Federal Reserve source claiming all bond auctions for U.S. Treasuries had been rigged for years, and no third parties had purchased bonds since at least early 2013. Around 1 p.m. that day, the market dropped over 500 points on the rumors and news, causing the markets to close. Within hours, it opened again, but only for about 10 minutes as the Dow continued to melt. November 14th, 2016. That week seems like a blur today. Everything was happening so quickly. I think the market tried to open a few more times that week, but stocks were in absolute freefall. On Wednesday, the Fed announced it would guarantee all bond auctions and continue to exercise policies that would ensure a strong dollar. Amazingly, most countries just didn't believe the Federal Reserve. Within hours of the announcement, alternative media source Max Kaiser reported that a source within the Chinese government had privately threatened the U.S. government leaders to exchange the $1 trillion plus it held in U.S. treasuries for the gold in Fort Knox. Hours later, several news agencies reported the story was true. Gold and silver stopped trading that day. Dealers stopped selling because prices had increased so dramatically. By close of business on Thursday in London, gold was trading over $17,000 an ounce, and silver at $545 an ounce. November 18, 2016. Going into the weekend, the president went on TV from a secret location urging calm. Homeland Security, TSA, and the National Guard troops had been deployed in major urban areas across the nation. Obama claimed the U.S. would treat any act by a foreign country to further the current economic challenges facing America as an act of war. Any American who took financial actions against the U.S. dollar or U.S. markets would be suspect and potentially be found guilty of aiding and abetting the financial terrorists. That weekend, I remember going to the grocery stores and seeing people acting like animals. Most Americans were clueless about all this. They had lived under the false notion that America would always be America. The normalcy bias had been shattered. November 21st, 2016. The next week, everything changed. The stock market opened Monday for about 15 minutes and closed for the day. The Dow was around 3,000 if I remember correctly, over an 11,000-point drop. Stories of seniors who had lost everything and were committing suicide were countless in local press. That week, Americans took to the streets demanding answers. The media and government began to lay blame on small government liberty activists. Talk radio personalities, popular YouTubers in the alternative media, and certain financial pundits were singled out as the cause of the collapse. They blamed gold and silver hoarders on the free fall collapse of the US dollar. They blamed the lack of food availability on food hoarders, preppers. November 22nd, 2016, 9:30 a.m. The media reported a huge explosion at the Dallas and New York Federal Reserve buildings. 2 truck bombs had collapsed the buildings, causing horrific casualties. Within hours, they blamed a group of Tea Party members who were ex-Vietnam vets. Rumors swirled online that the attacks had been carried out by government agents as a false flag operation. The media claimed elements of the Tea Party and Ron Paul supporters had aligned themselves with the radical Islamists in an attempt to punish America and the re-election of Obama. November 23, 1145. Shortly after the attacks at the Federal Reserve buildings, the UN, in what appeared almost like a well-coordinated plan, held a General Assembly meeting without the US present, issuing calls for a new world reserve currency. The instability in the US was threatening to collapse the global economy, they claimed. China announced they would be issuing a gold-backed yuan. Russia announced that day they would only trade their oil for the new gold-backed currency. OPEC followed suit. Because of the currency collapse, US military bases were immediately closed. Many left abandoned. US troops across the world and the Middle East were left alone, faced with the battle of returning to a home they would not recognize. November 25, 2016. No internet today. Reports that Homeland Security and local law enforcement were picking up people of interest that may be sympathetic to the Tea Party or libertarians. Local law enforcement started calling for people to voluntarily turn in their guns. President Obama declares emergency decrees suspending all elections and constitutional rights in order to protect America. In order to secure the homeland, any individual associated with the Tea Party, the secession movement, libertarians, Ron Paul, were to be sent to re-education camps. America had been on the brink for a long time. There were many warning signs, but few saw this coming. In the end, everything faded to black.